Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Reviewable with Micah and Braden. Okay, so apparently we are on a George Clooney kick.
So we watched The Descendants, right?
Yeah, last week.
Was there one before that? I don't think so. We're only 2 movies into this kick, but I'm having a good time so far.
Yeah, I'm happy with George Clooney, but this week's movie, I don't know.
Well, it needs no introduction. It's Out of Sight.
If you didn't know already what we were talking about.
The movie you've definitely seen before.
And definitely heard of.
Yeah.
No, but not for George Clooney.
No, you just know the movie. Everybody knows this movie.
Sure. But not because George Clooney's in it.
What are you alluding to here?
The main actress?
I keep wanting to call her Jessica something, but it's Jennifer Lopez. Yeah, Micah doesn't like Jennifer Lopez.
No.
I mean, I'm not sure if anyone really does these days, but listen, I'm okay with separating the art from the artist. I don't have a problem with that. That's why I can still watch Baby Driver and not get upset every time Kevin Spacey shows up on screen.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it this time.
Alright, well, what's this about?
Why are you laughing?
It's like we're having a race every time of who asks who what it's about.
So that you don't have to do it?
Yeah, that's right. Because then you just sound like an idiot. So you're like, it's about, and then, George Clooney.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so George Clooney is a bank robber. Beginning of the movie starts off and he gets arrested.
Mm-hmm.
And he's in prison. And his buddy helps break him out of prison.
Yeah, played by Ving Rhames, who is in most of the Mission Impossible movies. He's the black dude from most of the Mission Impossible movies.
And in the parking lot of the prison, J-Lo is there, and she tries to stop George Clooney from escaping.
She's a federal agent.
U.S. Marshal.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But not our favorite U.S. Marshal.
No. Interesting you should say that. Keep going.
And they bring her along with the escape so that she doesn't tell anybody. And
yeah,
the movie is about George Clooney trying to get caught and her chasing him.
He's not trying to get caught.
Oh, I mean, trying to escape, trying to stay away.
Well, they're trying to do one last big job, so they go to Detroit to do this big job
from Miami.
But between George and Jennifer, so their characters' names are Jack and Karen, it's like love at first sight, and they just have this. Okay, you missed something important. So
I don't like giving the synopsis. I'm not good at it.
So when J-Lo tries to apprehend like the big prison break that's happening, they break out of a prison in Florida. She ends up getting overpowered, can't remember by who, but they put her in the trunk of the car, and George Clooney also ends up in the trunk of the car because he's hiding in there or whatever, and he's supposed to be there like controlling her, making sure she doesn't do anything. So they basically take her hostage, and they're going on this drive together, and they're just, stuck in the trunk of the car together, and they're chopping it up. And they just have a connection, and they can't resist each other. So that's kind of what's going on, is she really is into him and he's really into her, but it's a marshal and a criminal, and she knows
it's a Romeo and Juliet situation.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. It's Romeo and Juliet, but with a crime twist. Not exactly. But like, nobody ends up killing themselves at the end. I guess that's a spoiler. But yeah, it's like that. So what did you like about this movie?
Okay, let's start with what I don't like.
All right.
Okay. I don't like J-Lo because, let me start this, okay? I've watched a lot of videos recently of people that have met her or interacted with people around her, And she just seems like a beezy.
What does Beezy mean?
Beh.
Okay, that's what I figured.
She just seems like a beh.
Okay.
Where apparently this guy worked at a movie theater over in New York or something, and this was like when she wasn't even that big. And her team or whatever forced the movie theater to only sell a ticket to this movie to her and wouldn't allow them to sell a movie ticket to the rest of the theater.
How's it even possible? How can they do that?
I don't know. And they threw a huge fit, and she had to come in through the back entrance, and nobody was allowed to talk to her and all this stuff. And I also heard a rumor recently that her and Ben Affleck were getting a divorce.
Uh-huh.
But I heard that's not true.
They worked out their differences.
I think it was just fake. But it made me sad.
Yeah.
So, it's hard for me to even... Like, I just, like, love George Clooney so much as an actor.
Yeah.
That, like, ugh. As a co-star, he could have done so much better.
Alright. Well, Micah's anecdotal hatred of Jennifer Lopez aside, she does a fine job in this movie.
Yeah, she does.
She's not bad. And then George Clooney is also... This is maybe the most suave he's ever been, besides Ocean's 11. Another fun fact, this movie was directed by Steven Soderbergh, who directed Ocean's 11.
Oh.
And Logan Lucky. So, and he's using George Clooney again, and he's, writing him as a very suave character. Here's why I said it was interesting when you mentioned the U.S. Marshal thing. So who is our favorite U.S. Marshal?
U.S. Deputy Marshal Raylan Givens.
That's right, and he's the main character of what show?
Justified.
That's right. And Justified is based on a book written by Elmore Leonard. This is also based on a book written by Elmore Leonard.
Oh, interesting.
And what's the new Justified show with Raylan Givens in it? That came out?
Primeval.
Yeah, City Primeval. So in that book, the original main character is not Raylan Givens, it's Raymond Cruz. And Raymond Cruz is in this movie as a side character.
Wait, you said that.
Yes. So, we're in the Elmore Leonard verse. Raylan potentially exists in the world of this movie.
Interesting.
Isn't that cool? And Boyd Crowder and Dewey Crow and all those characters.
Huh.
So
they go to Detroit at some point, don't they?
Yep. Yeah, the whole second half of the movie takes place in Detroit.
No. In Justified. Not City Primeval.
City Primeval.
Not City Primeval.
Yeah, in Justified. They go to Detroit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And City Primeval takes place completely in Detroit. So, that's a little fun fact. A little fun factoid. Do you like it more now? Knowing that it's the same
maybe.
world? Also in the movie is Don Cheadle. He plays a absolutely insane, violent criminal.
Oh, the guy from Marvel.
Yeah. There's also... Man, this guy, I don't know if this is a name anyone's going to recognize, but you've probably seen his face. Steven Zahn.
Oh, he's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
The thing that, for some reason, we always remember him from is 8-Bit Christmas. Click on what else he's in.
But he plays a character named Glenn.
It's at the top.
Glenn is just great. I really liked his character.
Yeah.
He's just kind of this hapless...
He's the dad from Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
I guess he's in War for the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, he's in Sahara. He's like the friend of Matthew McConaughey.
You've Got Mail. Oh, that's right. He's the
bookkeeper guy. He works at the bookstore.
At the small bookstore. Yeah, that's right. Okay. He's in The Killer. He's in... Why aren't you laughing anymore at that joke?
Oh.
I guess he's in Dallas Buyers Club. I don't remember who he is in that, but he's just like this kind of an idiot. He's the one that gets the information on this big job they're all going to try and pull, and he's originally going to do it with George Clooney and Ving Rhames, and the whole Jennifer Lopez in the trunk situation backfires, and she convinces him to drive off and they leave George Clooney and Ving Rhames stranded in the distance.
On the side of the road.
And so he ends up contacting Don Cheadle's character to try and do the job, and realizes very quickly he doesn't want to be involved with these guys because they're just...
monsters.
Yeah, they're not good people. So there's like a funny little... He's torn in the middle between George Clooney and these guys, and he's just in over his head and doesn't know what he's doing, just kind of a dummy.
He does such a good job with that character.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is... I really liked this. I really liked this. Luis Guzman is in this movie.
It's me,
Luis Guzman.
And he plays a... What is he supposed to be?
He was one of the guys that broke out from the prison.
Huh.
At the very beginning.
Yeah.
So, one thing that needs to be said about Elmore Leonard is I kind of think of him as smart pulpy, which doesn't really make sense.
What does that mean, pulpy?
Pulpy typically means like almost like trashy or like comfort food entertainment sort of a thing. So like the Kardashians...
Who did you hear this term from?
This term has been around forever.
I've never heard this before.
Like the Kardashians would be considered pulpy.
For who?
Everyone should consider the Kardashians pulpy.
Trashy or comfort?
It's sort of like...
Because those are contradictory.
No, it can mean both. In this sense... Here, let me look it up for you. Resembling or consisting of pulp, mushy. Writing sensationalist and of poor quality, trashy. Pulpy detective novels. But it's difficult to describe Elmore Leonard because he creates these stories that definitely feel kind of pulpy. I've read a couple of Elmore Leonard books and I enjoy them. I just kind of see them as like smart pulpy. Like it's my thing that I go to as a palate cleanser after I've read something a little bit more intense. Like I read Crime and Punishment, and then I read City Primeval right after that as like a palate cleanser. But the way that he writes, you really need to be paying attention because you'll miss stuff.
That's not really a palate cleanser in my opinion.
But you see what I'm saying though? Like the story is fun and like it's in the crime world and it's like lighthearted and like there's these funny things that happen and the way the characters talk to each other is really like entertaining. So in that sense it's kind of like it kind of feels like a pulpy thing, but it's the way that the characters talk to each other. They're dropping important pieces of information into their conversation and they're talking so fast and like, you know, basically riffing off of each other that you need to be paying attention to get the full context of the story. So that's what this movie is. That's what Justified is as well. Would you agree?
Yeah. I still don't really understand that term, but sure.
Anyways, for those that may be interested, Quentin Tarantino cites Elmore Leonard as being very inspirational to him for the way that he writes his characters. Which makes sense because Elmore Leonard does that thing that Tarantino loves to do where like criminals will just be talking to each other and it's like a totally normal conversation, like almost like a banal, boring conversation. Like for example, when Luis Guzman is getting arrested, he's like asking another woman in the room who like is a magician's assistant. He's getting arrested. He's getting sent back to jail after he just escaped from jail. And he's like, but how do you do the trick with the lady?
The box and the saw.
She saws you in half. Mira, how do you do that trick? As he's getting cuffed, he's like, ow. But you wiggle your toes though. How do you wiggle your toes? So it's like that. Like it's sort of like the whole, you know, Samuel L. Jackson and what's his name? John Travolta conversation in Pulp Fiction, where they're like on their way to go murder someone and they're talking about McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you like Tarantino, you'll probably like Elmore Leonard as an author, and you should check out some of the movies and shows that are based on his work. Like this.
Okay, let's rate it, because I want to talk about spoilers.
Okay.
Is there anything else you needed to talk about before?
I feel like all we gave was context. We didn't talk about much what we like and didn't like.
Well, some of the things that I didn't like, I need to wait till after we rate it.
Okay. I had one peeve with this movie. And they do this thing all the time where they, like, freeze the frame.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I kept thinking that something was wrong with our Wi-Fi.
Yeah. And there's no sound effect. There's no, like, camera click.
Yeah.
Or
it's
like shutter click or whatever. It just stops for a second and then fades. I was not a fan of those transitions at all. I think that those looked really rough.
Well, yeah. And for some of it, there was no reason to do it.
It seemed, yeah. I mean, maybe he had a reason. I have no idea. But other than that, like, everybody's written well. Everybody acts well. The story wraps up in a really kind of fun, twisty way. Mm-hmm. It's just fun, but smart fun. It's smart pulpy.
Yeah. And I do think they do a good job of keeping you, like, entertained, but not, like, have too much going on.
Yeah. It is mature.
Yeah, the parents' guide on this is it's rated R. There's language.
Yeah.
There's some violence. Like, when it's violent,
it can be kind of violent.
Pretty violent. But the majority of this movie is not violent.
But it feels so lighthearted that it almost...
Except for at the end.
Yeah, I guess.
It's mostly at the end where it's violent.
There's just a vibe to these Elmore Leonard movies. It's really hard to describe how these feel. You kind of just have to have seen one or read one of the stories to know the vibe that this is. But I think it's worth checking out. Okay, now I'm ready to rate it.
Okay, go.
I'm gonna give this an... Okay, you go.
Well said.
Yeah, you like that?
I think I'm gonna give this a 7.75.
Okay.
Trips up the stairs.
Oh, yeah.
Out of 10.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm gonna give this an 8.5. Robs a bank without a gun. Out of 10. That bank robbery scene at the beginning is so smooth.
Yeah. That was pretty good. It's just like a perfect, like, George Clooney moment.
Yeah, he's perfect for this.
Yeah. Okay, spoilers ahead. I don't think it's very believable that she would fall in love with him that quickly, and her code of ethics that she seems to live by are just thrown out the window.
Well, I think they allude to her having dated criminals in the past.
It's just weird.
But it's one of those things that, like, again, like, you need to be paying attention to.
I did catch that, but also they just make it seem like she just lives by this code of ethics that are so strong and then immediately breaks it.
But they explain that also when they're, when he meets her in the bar and he's like, it's like when you see someone on a bus and you make eye contact and there's like a moment for just a moment and you're like, oh, who is this person? But then that moment passes and you never get it back. And he's like, that's what it was like for us or whatever. Said much, written much better than I just delivered. Mm. But like, it's just like a weird, it just, love at first sight sort of thing. So I didn't mind it. It's just most of the story kind of hinges on that.
Yeah, I guess something I did like was George Clooney is kind of the suave guy, but he kind of has like a schoolboy crush on this girl.
Yeah.
On J-Lo. The way that he acts. He's calling her at her house when he's a fugitive just to talk on the phone with her, and then when his friend is like, who are you talking to? And he's, nobody. Don't worry about it. Anyways, And then when they're... when the police raid the hotel or the apartment complex,
yeah,
and he's in the elevator and they see each other and he like waves his hand.
Yeah.
He just seemed like a shy, like he had a little crush.
Yeah.
And it was kind of cute to see him act like that,
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah. Did you like how Michael Keaton showed up in the movie for one scene?
Yeah, and he was a total dumbass.
Yeah. And Viola Davis also for one scene.
Yeah. She did, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of and Samuel L. Jackson for one scene.
Yeah.
Kind of got a stacked cast.
That part was crazy.
I liked that a lot.
At the very end.
That's the ending. So, do we want to spoil the ending?
No.
Yeah. Okay. I liked that part a lot, let's just say.
Let's talk about at the end of the movie, the shootout in the house.
Okay.
So they show up to this guy's house because they're going to rob him, and all of these criminals used to be in prison with him, and he was a multimillionaire by fraud.
Yeah.
And they show up to his house to rob him, and they don't know that he's there. And George Clooney goes into this office and sees that a light is on under a door and knows that the guy is in there hiding. Didn't you think that was funny?
Yeah.
And he got put on hold with the police, apparently.
Yeah.
Which I thought was
As people
funny.
were breaking in.
Yeah. And then one of the guys that Glenn is with, his name is White Boy. And he's just this super big dude. Massive. And when they're searching the house, he goes into the kitchen and he searches through the fridge.
And he finds a bunch of steaks.
Yeah, he raids the fridge and puts it back in the car.
That's what he cares about.
Not the millions of dollars they're trying to find.
Yeah. And then they're trying to shoot the safe open.
And they're all standing in front of it. There's 3 bad guys standing in front of the safe. And they're like, no, you have to stand off to the side, otherwise you're just going to shoot me. It was so dumb.
Yeah. That all you wanted to talk about, spoiler-wise?
Yeah. It was mostly the love story between them was not very believable to me. But that's just me.
What was unbelievable to me was the fact that Ving Rhames was confessing everything to his sister.
Oh, that was also crazy.
I was like, what?
And he hasn't caught on that his sister is
Turned him in
multiple times.
Got him arrested. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I liked the very end when George Clooney goes back into the house, because there's like a situation with one of the bad guys and a maid, and he goes, they're about to make off with the diamonds. They find the diamonds in the guy's house and they're about to get away.
Yeah, because they show up to this house and it's the 2 separate parties that kind of have joined together, but they're still, the threesome of really bad guys, and then the twosome of George Clooney and what's his name?
The actor's Ving Rhames. I can't remember what his name is.
And so they're all there together, but friends and friends.
Yeah.
Enemies, but frenemies.
I'm gonna look up his name real quick, otherwise I'm gonna mess up the quote that I'm trying to say. His name is Buddy. And they're about to get away, and George Clooney's like, okay, they're going to attack that maid, aren't they? Alright, I'll go back in. And then he, loads his gun. And then the guy, Buddy, is like, I'm gonna go with you. And he's like, Buddy, the shit that's about to go down in there, you're gonna be confessing to your sister for a week. And he's like, okay. He's like, just go to the airport and meet me later.
Because they make this comment earlier on in the movie where George Clooney is like, how long are you talking to your sister? And he's like, 2 hours. Oh my god.
He just tells her everything. It's just, I don't know. It's like one of the charms of the way that this guy writes his stories. These criminals are real people with foibles, It's good. I recommend checking him out and checking this movie out. It's good. Anyway, should we move on? Mm-hmm. Do you want to go first?
Sure. So I have been watching Chopped, the cooking show. I think
it's a show where you chop it up.
Yeah.
With Gandalf.
My boy Gandalf.
In the Shire. Asking for a courageous hobbit.
I think it's on season 35. So I've been watching season 35. I think I'm almost done with it. But it's just fun. Like an easy show to watch. It's either 30-minute episodes or 45-minute episodes. And it's just fun. It's just an easy watch,
I've caught you watching it a couple of times.
No, you haven't?
Yeah, I have.
The one beef that I have is some of the reasons that the judges give for them being chopped. Because it starts out 4 contestants, and they have mystery items, so they have 3 rounds.
And if they lose, they get their heads chopped off?
Appetizer, entree, and dessert. And every round, someone gets chopped. And some of the mystery items are so crazy. There was a full-on chocolate cake with, like, chocolate candy decorating it as one of the mystery items.
What is the purpose of the mystery item?
They have to use it in their dish.
Oh.
And so, like, there's usually, like, 4 mystery items, and they have to use it in some way in their dish.
So they're like, today you'll be making a seafood recipe, and the mystery item for you is a chocolate cake.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the mystery items, this was wild, was alligator, and none of the contestants had cooked with alligator before.
Who has?
I have no idea.
If you don't live in the freaking bayou, you've never...
And one of the contestants apparently overcooked his alligator, and the judges were like, if you had cooked this 5 minutes longer, it would have been alligator jerky. I was like... Oh my
word.
How is he supposed to know?
This is the worst alligator I've ever eaten in my life. How many alligators have you eaten in your life?
And I think this is the only time I've really seen this where the contestant was like, okay, well, what was I supposed to do? Like, how are you supposed to do it? And they, like, didn't give him a straight answer.
They're like, well... Are they actually chefs, the judges?
Mm-hmm.
Or okay, they are. They're not just food critics.
They always... I'm not sure about the first two. I think that they might be chefs or they might be food critics. But they always have at least one real chef.
Listen, the irony of what I'm about to say is not lost on me. Because at the end of the day, we're not filmmakers or writers. Yet, we critique films and shows and books. And I know that we're not really qualified to do it. That being said, the fact that you have these food critics...
I'm not sure.
Okay, but I'm just saying...
If they are.
Did they go to culinary school to develop these methods for critiquing other chefs? Do they understand how to make it's like the whole freaking that character from The Menu, the guy that knows like everything about food, but he can't make anything himself. Yeah. Anyway, again, irony not lost on me. So
yeah. Well, and there's this one judge. I think her name might be Amanda. She's blonde. She judges most episodes. She just is not very nice. I'm trying to think of some of, like, the other... Like, some of the combinations that they have in these mystery boxes. Like I said, like, chocolate cake. And then it'll be squid. And hot tamales, the candy. And Brussels sprouts. Or something like that.
Brussels sprouts sounds pretty easy.
But they have to use all 4 of those.
Okay.
In one dish.
Yeah.
It's just some of the combinations are pretty wild.
Sounds like a squid Brussels sprout hot tamale stew. For me. Bake it at 325.
Did you say soup?
Stew.
Stew, and then you're
sorry,
gonna bake
I meant casserole.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna rate the show a 9.
The show or the season?
The season.
Okay.
A 9 choppity chops. Chopping it up with my boy Gandalf.
In the Shire, looking for a courageous hobbit.
Out of 10.
Alright. Well, the time has come. You know what time it is.
I know, you've only been teasing this for so many weeks.
This show needs no introduction, but actually probably doesn't need an introduction because it's pretty big nowadays. The show is called Shogun. How do you like that? And it's set in feudal Japan. Century, I don't know. And the premise of this is you've got an English... I guess they're technically privateers because they were sent to the Japans or whatever by the crown to attack the Portuguese because the Portuguese have already found Japan and they are basically monopolizing all the trade with Japan. And so this group of English sailors was sent there to attack all the Portuguese encampments and ships and all that. And they end up getting captured in a Japanese village. And anyway, there is a main character on this ship. His name is John Blackthorne. And he is the pilot of the ship. He's sort of the leader of the crew that's left. And through circumstances, he ends up in the trust of this like Japanese lord. So at this time, There's no king, quote unquote. I think they
Didn't they have emperors?
They call him the Taiko at this point. That's like the leader. But the Taiko, the heir who's going to take over, is very young, so he's not ready. So there's like 5 regents. I think there's 5. There's a council of 5 regents. And the guy that John Blackthorne ends up in his service is one of the regents. And he's played by, I think I know his name offhand, Hiroyuki Sanada. Hang on, guys. 1 second.
I have a question.
Yeah. This guy.
Am I supposed to know him?
If you've seen a Hollywood movie that has a Japanese person in it, it's probably this guy. He seems to be cast more than pretty much any other Japanese actor. So he's in John Wick. He's in The Last Samurai. Those are the ones that come to mind. What was your question, though?
It's never mind.
Oh,
it's not about Shogun.
That was a good question.
It was off topic. It was about the Dalai Lama.
Yeah, he's not in this.
Well, because the Dalai Lama died a while ago, right? And they said that they weren't going to call a new Dalai Lama.
Did they say that?
That's what I thought. I was just wondering when they were going to do it.
I don't know. I don't know anything about the current state of Buddhism. But yeah, so this guy, his name is Toranaga, the regent that John Blackthorne is working under. Basically, think of this as a Game of Thrones-esque sort of series where there's plotting going on, there's people considering different schemes, people rubbing their hands together, people standing in the corner going nonverbal, rubbing their hands together at the function. Yeah. Basically, and the idea of the shogun is like the military ruler of Japan. And Toranaga is being advised at a certain point, because he's at odds with the rest of the council, is being advised to make moves so that he can become the shogun and basically be in charge, because everybody else is corrupt. Toranaga is a good dude. Toranaga is an honorable man who has nothing but the best interests of Japan in his heart. And he refuses, of course, because a good man does not want absolute power, Micah. You know? And he doesn't want absolute power.
That's good.
But this is really good. It's really well written. It's beautiful too. Like, the sets is really incredible. It looks just crisp and clean and great. And also, I love a series that has a cool title sequence. I think I watched the title sequence for every single episode of this show.
That could never be me.
I know, Micah hates it. But I really liked it. Like, just like the music, the visuals that they put on the screen, and it just looks it's just very satisfying for some reason to me. I can't really talk too much about plot points. There's a love story going on as well. Fish out of water. John Blackthorne is an Englishman in Japan. He's an Englishman in New York. He doesn't drink coffee.
Sting?
He drinks tea. He likes his toast done on both sides. So, he's trying to adapt to the samurai culture, and he doesn't understand a lot of aspects of it. There's, a certain point in the series where Toranaga makes him, a military advisor, because he knows how to use cannons. And so he gets a house, and he starts, he catches, some kind of bird and then hangs it up outside the house and just leaves it out there for days because he's trying to prepare this dish. And it just starts stinking the place up like crazy. And in his limited Japanese, he's like, "Don't touch. If touch, die."
What was it?
This bird that he's letting just fester out there in the sun. And, he's clearly joking. If touch, die, whatever. His housekeeper, his gardener, eventually just can't stand the smell anymore, and he moves it. and his housekeeper has the gardener killed because he says, if touched, die. And John is like, are you kidding me? For a bird, you're joking me. And she's like, you said don't touch or else die. He's like, you should have talked to me about that. And he just doesn't understand this.
Oh, the cultural difference.
He doesn't understand their willingness to throw their lives away for to him, meaningless issues. So it's just interesting. It's just good stuff. And then like the plot unravels and you get to see what Toranaga is trying to do, and it's good. I won't talk much more about plot. I'll just give it a rating. I'm going to give this a solid 9 horses blown up by cannons out of 10. Parents Guide, this is a really quite violent show when it's violent. And there are some sensual situations as well. So, be advised. I want to talk briefly about the ending, though. So I've heard...
spoiler?
Yeah, so this is a spoiler. So this is also based on a novel, this show, and they cover everything, from what I'm told, from what I've read. They cover everything within this one season in the novel. So it ends where the novel ends. Basically, I loved the way they ended this, because they're building up to this huge battle that's going to happen between Toranaga and the rest of the regents, and he's going to try and take over Osaka and become, take charge of it. They don't end it that way. The last episode is like a very quiet, character-driven. They reveal Toranaga's like plan, but he reveals it to a guy that's about to commit seppuku. Mm-hmm. So he's like, yeah, I'll tell you what my plan is, since you're gonna die anyways. And there's no battle, there's no naval battle, there's nothing like that. There's not even a skirmish. And then the show ends. But basically you find out...
Did it happen?
What do you mean?
The fight?
So what Toranaga does, it's very complicated. Basically, it makes sense in the context of the show, but he sends one of his people, women. This is also the woman that's having a love affair with John Blackthorne also. He sends her to Osaka because all of the regents are being held hostage, but they're not the guy that's holding them hostage is not admitting that he's holding anyone hostage. And Toranaga sends this woman. This is very complicated. Anyway, I'm just going to tell you what happens. So he sends her there to die because through her dying, the regent that's kind of being a dick for the whole season, like the antagonist to Toranaga, loses all of his support because she dies. There are situations and relationships between her and other characters that like will explain why that makes sense. Basically, she dies, the dick regent loses all of his power. And this was his plan all along. To become shogun.
Whose plan?
Toranaga.
Okay.
To become shogun by sending this woman in to die, so that he didn't actually have to attack Osaka. And this is the way that he's going to ascend. And you find out at the very end that they like mentioned this earlier in the show, that like Japanese people have like a front-facing heart, and then they have like an inner heart, and then they have a secret heart, and nobody knows what's in their secret heart. And it turns out that Toranaga's secret heart, he's just as power hungry as everybody else in the end. And he did want to become shogun the whole time. And he's really not that good of a guy. Oh. And he's just better at hiding his secret heart than everybody else. And he's very manipulative and very cunning. And he keeps John Blackthorne alive because he likes him. He's like entertaining to him. I don't know. Like, I loved the way they ended that show. It's, like, very quiet, very understated. Not what you're expecting, but in a really cool way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard that they're supposedly in the process of writing season 2 and 3. I hope they don't, because I think this is, like, a very bold choice to, like, end a series of TV this way, especially one that's this popular. Can you imagine if they ended Game of Thrones without a battle? Yeah, me neither. At
the very end?
Or just, like let's say they're building up to, remember the battle where they're trying to get Sansa back from Lord Bolton?
Yeah.
Imagine if they'd been building up to that battle, and then, you know, they almost rug pull you, and they end it this way, or a way like this, you know? Obviously, it can't feel contrived or stupid, like, but if they do it in an intelligent way, can you imagine if they'd done that? People would have been...
Yeah, that would be pretty crazy.
I loved that they did that with this. So, and then also, like, there's the fact that if they continue writing this show, it's going to be completely off script now. They just have to make up the story.
Is it based off of something?
The book, yeah.
Huh.
It's based off a book. And they finished the book in the series, so...
Which is always risky.
Yeah. So I think this is a case of... I would prefer them to let sleeping dogs lie, but the show's so popular that they're probably just going to do it. Anyway, this is really good. I give it a hearty thumbs up.
Doesn't sound like you even liked it.
I will say, it was pretty difficult to keep track of all the characters and who they were and, you know, their story. Yeah.
Okay. You have anything coming up? Because I have the show 9 Perfect Strangers on Hulu that I'm going to be finishing and talking about next time.
I've been watching Atlanta again. Maybe I'll finish that.
The whole show?
Just season 2.
Yeah, okay. And
What?
that show that we've been watching.
Oh my gosh. The Killer?
No. Shorzy.
Oh yeah. I did see that Shorzy season 3 is coming out.
I thought there was only the one.
That's what I thought too, but I guess now they're on 3.
Yeah.
So, that's good.
Guess we need to catch up. Alright. I forgot to mention this earlier. Braden came out with another little special video. It's on YouTube. What's it called?
It's like called I Love Splinter Cell Blacklist and I'm Not Ashamed or something like that. I'm not afraid anymore to say that I like that game. It's really good. Yeah,
okay.
Go watch that.
And if you're not already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Okay, have a great week, everybody. Bye!